Hi everyone, I'm Stella CB. I'm a health and fitness coach for women in menopause, and I am the host of this Inspire show. And as you know, I always have guests who can inspire you in some way. Today here I have Alessa Caridi. Hi, Alessa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Had a long day. It's evening here. So, I'm ready to kind of wind down and relax. So, I'm happy to kind of chat about any health issues. How can I support you, your listeners? Throw me some questions and let's go.
Let's go. How are you doing? Transforming workspaces into wellness spaces. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we spend so much time sitting in front of our technology, standing at a standing workspace, and then beyond work, we're sitting. So we Netflix and binge, we socialize to have dinner, we sit in a theater, we're just hanging around, and our bodies were never made to just sit. And so really my goal is to teach people that you, proper posture is your first line of defense against stress, anxiety, any kind of body pain that you're having. And that goes hand in hand with creating a healthy workday movement schedule so that way at the end of your day, whether it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, if you work nights and you're sitting at a computer, whatever your schedule is, when you're done with your work in the place that you have to be, that you can go enjoy your actual enjoyment time instead of being exhausted and just wanting to go to sleep afterwards.
Exactly. I also always tell to my clients or to my friends that if you are sitting, at least stand up every 2 hours. Just do 10 or 20 squats. It's 1 minute of your day, and you will feel
Yeah,
much better, and your posture will be better.
sure. So what I teach people that I like that you're saying move every 2 hours. But what I teach people is what's called the 50-10 ratio. And I developed that concept so that you can kind of fit everything into 1 hour, right? So you can do the rotation and you can create. So if it works for you that you start at the bottom of the hour or at the quarter past, whatever it is, you set a 50-minute timer, 50-minute timer, and then you can commit to actually focused work, whether you have to put your phone on silent, whatever you need to do to actually achieve. And then when that timer goes off, you set a 10-minute timer and you move around. And I love what you said to stand up, do the 10 squats. And what I suggest is that go refresh your water, get fresh ice, more water in there, go reheat that coffee if you need to, go use the bathroom, make sure that you actually get to some kind of separation from the blue light of your screen and then be strict with yourself. So when the timer for 10 minutes goes off, that you sit back down again and you do completely focused work for those 50 minutes. And I think that when you keep the work schedule tight, you're strict with yourself on the work, and then you're also strict with yourself on the movement, you're able to keep the progress of your workday going and stay healthy there. So I love the squats are great. You can even just march in place if you can't actually get away from your computer. Standing up and marching, sitting and marching is great. If you want a little bit more of an aerobic kind of workout, you can go up and down a flight of stairs 5, 6 times, however many you can fit in there. Just, a great workout for your bum. Just be careful. And another thing that I really love, because I love walking and I love being outside, but if I don't have, 20, 30 minutes, what I'll do is I'll walk the perimeter of my workspace. So I walk in one direction and then I turn around and walk in the other direction. And that way I can kind of, speed it up. I can skip it. I can just move my body a little bit more in a bigger way. So that way I feel like, okay, I've exerted myself, but I'm not a sweaty mess. I'm not tired. I'm not feeling like this is a HIIT class or a Pilates class, but I feel like I can sit back down and I can commit and I can really get what I need done. Check off your to-do list.
Yes. What did you say? How much minutes? 50 minutes and
50
15?
minutes. Yeah, 50 and then 10. So you have a complete hour, 60
60 minutes.
minutes for
Yeah.
the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the reason why I kind of created it within the hour time frame, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Pomodoro method. And now there's a couple of other things that are popping up that I've been seeing, and people have asked me to kind of test out these kind of games that are like productivity games. And the productivity games end up, you spend more time on the game than you do on actually being productive. So it doesn't really work out very well. But the Pomodoro method has you do like 20 minutes of work, 20-minute break, 10 minutes of, 20 minutes of work, 10-minute break. And that's just like too much to keep track of. So that's why I keep
Mm-hmm.
it simple. And that way you're working within the hour. And also, another big thing that I tell people, professionals have this drive, right? Whether it comes from your boss telling you have to make this deadline, or yourself saying, I really want to get, that promotion, or I really want to get to the next level, whatever it is. People really think that they just have to get through it to really be able to achieve. But you also have to give yourself grace. So when you feel like, I just want to get this done, or I have to hit those 50 minutes. So if you get stressed, if something happens, if some anxiety comes in, you find yourself rubbing your shoulders or rubbing your eyes when you're working, and you're only 30 minutes in or 35 minutes in, pause, push yourself back, do that running in place or go up and down a flight of stairs and reset yourself, and then restart that 50-minute timer when you sit back down again. Because I think people they see a structure, right? I have to work within this way, but then they start figuring out that it's making them more stressed. And instead of using the tools like taking the break and going to get, something else to drink, or having a healthy snack, or stretching, or breathing, or any of the tools that are out there, and I'm sure we can talk about that, they feel like they have to stick to it, or they're failing. And the other aspect of that is sometimes we don't have control of our schedules, and we're on a call and it runs over, right? It's supposed to be an hour, but it ends up being like an hour and a half. And then people say, oh, I missed my break time. I can't do this now. And that's another thing. You have to allow yourself. So when you finish that call, before you jump back into your work, give yourself that 10 minutes of movement, even though it's an hour and a half in, because you can always reset that timer. But it's really important for your brain to be able to kind of reset, and your body to move around, so you don't become this like statue that has to be in front of their workspace. Or instead of looking like this, you frequently are hunched forward, your neck is, you're bouncing your knee, or you're chewing on your pen, all of those things that come in that are stress signals for your body.
Yeah. Yes. Because when we stand up and do something, our mental health is good for our mental health also, because
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
everything, it's the blood flow and everything is going
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah. When you start moving your body and the blood flow keeps going, you're oxygenating your brain, which makes you more awake. And then it also, when you actually like do stand up and move away from the screen, and even like acknowledge, like look out a window, or acknowledge something that is in your real life, you're giving your brain the chance to kind of live in the real world, and understand that what you're working on, it's not going to all come crashing down. Like it gives yourself that puts things in perspective. When you're working at a computer, you're not saving the world tomorrow, right? We all kind of feel that way, like the weight of the world, we have to get it done. But when you actually step away and go count the trees that are out your window, or the birds that you see, or whatever it is, when you start to acknowledge, oh, okay, there is life outside of the little computer screen that's in front of me, you do get a better perspective, and you can say, oh, okay, I'm going to sit back down, and I'm going to, I have my to-do list, I'm going to start getting it done.
And if somebody is very stressed and they the workouts, they can't do workouts, let's say, because they are so stressed, what you recommend them? Some breath work
So
or something?
yeah, well, so I love that you said breath work, because there's uh how should I put this? Like a harsh reality that I like to share with people. I think that that's kind of a way that I can best put this. But I love meditation, and I'm a big meditation person, and I start my day with meditation. But whenever I talk to people about, oh, how do you stay healthy or how do you stay productive in your workday? When I just ask a basic question to people, they say, oh, well, when I get stressed, I just meditate and so I can clear my mind. And that's nice, but workday health goes beyond your mindset. And so much of what we do, because we're seated or standing and we're in this little tiny area, right? When we're working at our computers, our brain health and our physical health are so connected that there's no amount of meditation that will get rid of body pain, that will end up helping you to really create that strong, solid body. So when you were talking about stress, breath work is kind of like the next thing that people go to. So they say like, oh, I meditate. Oh, and then I box breathe. And both of those things are great tools, but they're only like a piece of the bigger puzzle. And so when I love breathing when it is attached to an exercise. So if I'm sitting up in my chair and I'm doing something that like I'm hunched forward. So I want to undo the hunch. I want to kick tech neck. Like, I want to get back to that strong. So if I'm sitting up nice and tall and I just want to do a shoulder roll, right? Something that is so simple that you can add into your day, but really like makes a difference, right? Because if you're sitting still and you're typing away and you're like this and you are doing that shoulder roll, try adding in that breath work where you breathe in through your nose and then exhale out as you press the shoulders down. And that's what's going to end up really changing the way that you see that movement and allowing your body to get the body and brain kind of activation together to really get past the stress. Now, some people may need a little bit more than that if they're really like exhibiting stress signs where, when you start to hunch over and you're like mindlessly rubbing your shoulders, or you're leaning on your desk and you're just really, you can't get through it. Like you can't get past it. Even breathing isn't helping. And so something that I really like to do is I just stand up next to my computer and I just let my arms flop down to my sides and I do just little bounces up and down. I bounce up and down and I count about 30 or 40 and then standing still with my feet flat on the ground so they don't move. And from my shoulders, I just swing my arms back and forth. And sometimes I let my head go, but really focusing on centering my body and then adding that breath work in so that it is like a secondary piece there. And that will really help me just relax, bring back my nervous system and keep going. So like breath work is a great tool, but it has to be used as part of a bigger picture because it's not going to attack and really conquer all of the symptoms of stress unless it is used in conjunction with it too, with movement.
What are you saying for those entrepreneurs or professionals who are say that, oh, I don't have time for fitness?
Well, that's well, I think everything that we've talked about so far has kind of jumped that hurdle a little bit. Like you don't need to sweat it out. You don't need an hour, of going for a 3-mile run, coming back, doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups. Like you don't need that. But I'm also saying that I'm not here to replace that. So if you're about, your morning runs, I love my evening Pilates classes. That's what I live for. I don't want to replace that. So you can do that. But the one thing that I will say is that, and this is very cheesy, I don't know if you've heard of the catchphrase, your greatest wealth is your health. And we have to start thinking about our health in the way that we think about our dieting, right? So when you have a healthy diet or you're dieting, whatever terms you want to attach to that, you don't eat 1 or 2 meals a week that are, everything is green and everything is homegrown and, whole foods. That's not going to change the way that you look at your diet, right? It's little bits. You have to eat whatever your set schedule is. I know people they like to fast. Some people like to do the 3 whole meals. Some people like to eat small meals during the day. Whatever healthy is for you and what you've established, it is every single day. It's not once or twice, a week. It's not 1 or 2 days a week. It's every day. And so we have to start looking at our physical health, our mental, physical, workday productivity health in the same way. We can't just say 3 nights a week I go and I take a HIIT class. 3 mornings a week I go for a run. That stuff is great. That will do your body some great things. But what happens when you're spending 6, 7, 8, 9+ hours seated, in front of a blue screen? That has really horrible effects on you, and your body and your brain can't wait till, Wednesday night or Saturday morning when you have your scheduled athletic, activity involved there. And when people tell me, oh, I really just I don't think I can do this, then you need to start small. And when you're working in the 50-10 ratio and an hour goes by and you're really cranking it out and you don't need a break, start with just before lunch, do something. Just before you, like after you finish, just before you sit back down, do something. And then if you're going with the flow, you're productive, that's fine too. If you're not really used to adding movement into your day in that way, then right before you get up and you leave for the evening or whatever, do a little bit of movement there so you reawaken your body. And then as you get comfortable and your body starts craving the movement before and after you eat at the end of your day, then try adding in maybe something mid-morning, and pause for yourself and add a little bit of movement. So again, like what in the States, we always have this, like, it's all or nothing, you have to do everything or you're not achieving anything. And I think it goes back to giving yourself some grace. So if you do a little bit and then you build, for 1 week, you just do before and after lunch. Then the next week you do before and after lunch. And then in the evenings, and maybe you stay there for a couple of months. Like maybe that's what your body can handle or your brain can really process. And then once you start to say, oh, I forgot to move before I closed my computer today. That's when you can say, oh, okay, I am happy with this. My body is like reacting positively to this. Let me add one more time. So you just, again, give yourself grace. You can do this, and it's only going to help you, because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. I can tell you a million stories that when I've given talks in person and I ask people to reach their arms over their heads and they can only go like this. And they can't raise their arms up any higher because they just can't get their elbows just any slightly higher than their shoulders, because they're sitting like this all day long at their computers, and their bodies just can't do it anymore. And I'm like, no, reach. And they're like, I'm reaching. I'm like, no, reach. And it's like, yeah. And so it happens. It happens. And you don't want to age like that, because it's only going to get worse.
Yes. And as you said, it's every day they are doing it. It's become a habit. And
Yeah.
we have to implement this like a habit. And with time, our mind will remind us you didn't do.
Yeah. And also
So we will
habits
back out.
are habits are a funny thing too, right? Because sometimes our bodies really crave them, right? We really want them. We're really energized and we really just want to keep going. And then other times our body's like, I don't have time for that. But that's where our brains need to kick in and say, this is good for me. I need to do this. And so I think that's also where people kind of trail off, and they don't keep up with it, because they just say to themselves oh, I'll catch up tomorrow. I'll just do it some other time. But you really do, you have to make that commitment for yourself, because you know that in the long term, that's really going to be the most helpful for your brain, your body, your workday, your productivity in any aspect. Maybe the healthy habit has nothing to do with your work. Maybe it's something like journaling, and you just want to establish a new habit. Some days you're just going to say, I don't want to do this, but 30 years from now, you're going to end up with an amazing journal of whatever you were doing when you were younger. So you have to think of it in more of a long-term kind of thing.
And tell me, how did you start this? Why did you start? And
Oh,
what is your story?
so that's actually kind of a roundabout kind of mashing together of everything from my life. I grew up in a family of doctors, and so everything that I did anatomy and just the idea of protecting your body and understanding your body was part of the conversation. So if I hurt my leg, my dad would say to me, well, where does it hurt? And I would say, like, my leg, the top of my leg. And he was like, well, is it your quad that hurts, or is it your hamstring that hurts? And so it was like another question. And then it went beyond that, right? Because your quad has 4 heads to it. And so he'd ask me, like, which one would it be, that kind of thing. And so we'd have a conversation about that. And the same thing, like with like leg bones being your femur and your tibia and your fibula, it was never just my leg bone. It was like, well, which one? Like that was always my conversation growing up. And I thought that was normal. Like I just thought that's how people talked, like that's how I grew up. And then when I was a dancer growing up, and I've danced on a competitive company all through my childhood. And then I went to university for dance. So I have my BA in dance. And when I got to university, I thought everybody talked like that. So I was in my dance classes, using anatomical phrases, describing whatever it was that we were doing. And people would look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just your arm, like I was like, what are you saying? And so that's when I started to realize that people don't understand this amazing machine, right? Like we are in like the most amazing machine that no human brain could actually ever create themselves. It's just the way that it works, we don't fully understand our own brains. Like it's just this amazing thing that just seamlessly works every day for us. And at that time, I was like, okay, well, now I want to start studying, like actually studying anatomy. And so I started studying anatomy when I was in undergrad, and I did my senior thesis on injury prevention for extreme athletes. So I helped like the athletics department kind of rehab and helped people understand their bodies a little bit more. And then I started teaching dance classes from there to when I took undergrad dance classes and kind of helped out in that way. And then when I graduated with my BA in dance, about 9 months afterwards, the summer afterwards. So, well, no, not even. It wasn't even that long after. It was like 4 months afterwards. Came home and I went to the beach and I broke my foot walking on the beach. And so that was a huge, like, what am I going to do now? Because I thought that I was going to go home to Manhattan where I grew up, and I thought I was going to start auditioning for shows. I thought that I was going to twirl around on Broadway, and I realized that was my goal. And it was just one weekend where I was walking along the beach and I stepped on something that was like a rock that was underneath the sand, and my foot twisted and the bone in my big toe kind of twisted, and I didn't know that something happened to my foot, and I just kept going. And then the next day I woke up and like this side of my foot was huge. The whole thing swole up, and it was a disaster. So it was a long road for that. And my parents actually saw how much it affected me, how much it took a toll on me mentally. And my mother said, do you love Pilates? Pilates actually helped with a knee issue I had when I was in high school. And she said to me, go and take a class. You can't dance, you like go and teach, like learn how to teach. And because I'm a giant nerd, I not only did I learn how to teach, to go out and kind of instruct other people, but I just kept taking the certifications. So I was getting certified and certified and certified. Oh, and I took each certification 3 times. And so then I started teaching other instructors how to become Pilates instructors, like other people to teach it. And then I quickly learned that wasn't for me. Like I really wanted to affect people. I wanted to have a positive effect on them. So I did that for maybe 6 months, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. And then at that point, when I was kind of figuring all of that out, I met my husband, and he just walked into my life and he said, you want to move to Japan with me? And so we moved to Japan. And I lived in Japan for 3 years, and I opened the first to the island in Okinawa, Japan, Pilates studio. And so when I was there, I started training Marines, sailors, soldiers, stay-at-home caregivers, a triathlete. I helped them with his knee, just all different kinds of bodies where they had different requirements for their day. And I started talking to these people, and it didn't matter what they did. Didn't matter, if they were seated, if they had to carry heavy things, if they were under airplanes, it didn't matter what they did. They all had the same problems. By lunchtime, they were like just exhausted, drained, even if they had 8 hours of sleep. And then by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, their shoulders hurt, their backs hurt, their hips hurt. And it didn't matter what they were doing. These were common complaints across the board. And I'd only see them maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week when they would come into the studio, depending on, what their schedules were. And so I would help them and they would feel better when they left, but they'd have the same problem the next time that they came back in. And so it was always something that, me being the giant nerd that I am, I was always kind of like thinking about, like, how can I give them homework? But people don't want to do more homework, like they don't want to take, homework with, like, no one wants to do that. And so I was walking my dog on the seawall one morning there, and every morning I realized at the same time music plays. So just like we have street lamps on our roads, they have street lamps with speakers on top of them, and the same music plays every morning. It's about like 7 minutes ish kind of thing. And it didn't matter what you did. Kids going into school in the front of the schoolyard, the construction workers where I would walk my dog on the seawall, the nail salon that was like kind of a block away from the seawall. The ladies would come out and they would line up like right in front of the salon. Construction workers, the woman that I would say hi to every morning, the Japanese woman with her dog, she's like a retiree. She would tie her dog up on the street lamp and she'd line up with the construction workers, and they would all do the exact same routine. And so everybody learns this from childhood, and it's really this like beautiful like stretch and really elongating and awakening kind of routine. And that's when I had like the light bulb moment, as people like to say, where I was like, wow, this needs to, come back to the West. Like something needs to happen here where people are obviously benefiting from this, like great or small. And after I left Japan and moved back to the States, I started to kind of figure out, how can I do this? I kind of tested it at different companies. I created a 15-minute desk side, like full fitness video. And then I went into companies and I said, here, this 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, you're going to have your lower body, your upper body, your core, and I had a balance section to it. And then you're going to feel fantastic. And so they did it. And they were like, okay, that's great, but it's too long. Like what you're talking about, it's just too much. And so I said, okay. And I shortened it to 10 minutes. Nope, still too long. And so now what I suggest is about 5 to 8 minutes of movement is what I typically suggest. And then it leaves you enough time to go to the bathroom, go get some water, do whatever else you need to do to come and sit back down again. And so I now, after all of that testing and getting all of that feedback from professionals, I've created desk side movement that can be used within the 50-10 ratio, so that you can kind of keep doing what you're doing. So I love when people ask me about that, but it's always like a 5-minute story. So I apologize that I just kind of went on, but that's what it is. That's how I got here.
You also wrote a book?
Yes, actually, yeah, I have it here. It's called The Ultimate Workplace Toolkit. And I wrote it kind of just bad timing, really. I wrote it and published it the December before COVID. So in 2019, December. And so when I started kind of talking about it, everything shut down and nobody wanted to hear about it, even though it would help people at home. So I've really been talking about it more and more lately, because I think people are going back into the office. People are really saying, okay, I feel more normal now. We're around other people, but we're back into cubicle life where we're seated again. And so this thing, which I love because it's tiny and it's jam-packed with absolutely everything that you can need. So it teaches you how to sit correctly, how to stand correctly, how to adjust your workspace so that your workspace fits your body. You don't fit into your tech, which is very important, because people think, okay, let me pull my desk chair up. Let me just get closer to my computer. And, as the day goes on, you get more stressed out. You kind of end up like this in your computer. And what I kind of jokingly tell people is your tech will never love you back. So it doesn't matter how close you get to it. It's never going to love you back. But then I have exercises that you can do seated, that you can do standing. Everything fits into the 50-10 ratio. I have exercises for your forgotten body parts, your fingers, your toes, and your eyes. So they work hard for you. You don't really think about them, but we need to kind of show them some love. And then I put in we were talking a lot about scheduling. So there's an actual schedule. There's a template here in the book so that you can pick what part of your body you want to work on, and then it shows you what to do. And I also put a full day of activities in here as an example. So if you're like, I have no idea what to do, follow the schedule. It's built in for you.
Mm.
And then because people are going back into the office, and this is what I've been talking a lot about, I actually have in here how to hold a walking meeting, which I think is really big now. And so I included this form where you can not only you write this out as the organizer, but you share it ahead of time so that people know how far you're walking, where you're walking, what you'll be talking about, and just a kind of note so that you can really get the most out of your, doing double duty, right? And you're getting some workout in and moving around. So it's kind of, everything is in here. It is jammed in there. There's no space to spare. It like gets right to it. There's no fluff in here.
So can you recommend for those who listening and sitting too much? Because I know that you said, let's say 2 or 3 exercise they can do.
Oh, sure. Okay. I'll stick with the upper body. Is that okay? Because if you're going to watch this, you can see it. If I don't, do you put this on YouTube too, or someplace you can see it that we can go and check? So something that's really easy. Oh, can we start with a quick 3-step posture check? Is that okay? Can we start there? Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. So what I tell everybody is posture always starts from the floor. So you want to make sure that you have both feet firmly pressed to the ground. And then you want to take your eyes and you want to actually look at your feet, because it's not enough to just say, okay, my feet are on the ground. We want to make sure that all 10 toes are pointed forward. And by taking our eyes and actually looking down at the floor, we're reestablishing that coveted brain-body connection. I know that we were talking a lot about that today too. So when you look down at the floor, you want to make sure your 10 toes are forward, because what happens frequently, we think this is our forward and both of our toes are pointed in, or this is our forward and one is out and one is in. So we really want to make sure to readjust, because when you have the whole foot on the ground, all 10 toes forward, the full foot is pressed to the floor, right? So don't rock out or in. We want the whole foot on the floor. And then what it's going to do is going to activate the correct muscles coming all the way up. So when you align your body from your feet, we're now going to go to the second step, which is aligning our spine. So we want to imagine, now we want to sit tall. That's the goal. But we don't want to think, press our chest up and forward or stick our bum backwards. Instead, what you want to imagine is that there's one strand of hair that's getting pulled up to the lights. So we want to be tall from the top of our head. Then that way it's going to create space through our vertebrae, our spinal column there. So we're nice and long. And then the last step here for the third step is we're going to relax our shoulders down away from our ears. So we're going to release the tension in our head, neck, and shoulders, because this is the most frequently placed when stress and anxiety comes in. This is where people feel the most tension. And then all you're going to do is you're going to shake your head. No, I am not ready for my workday. But yes, I'm going to practice proper posture and I'm going to power through. And as long as you sit with those 3 steps, you're going to set your body up for success. So even if you're so tight on time and you're stressed out and you need something and you just do, I'm going to look at my feet, I'm going to check my spine, I'm going to shake my head no and yes, that might be enough for you to rebalance your body and get into proper alignment. But then if you wanted something that is a stretch, when we talk about being at our computers all day long, right? And our hands are going and, we're kind of in this like awkward position. So something that I really love to do is obviously push yourself away from your workspace, because we don't want to punch our workspaces at all. We're going to take the heel of our hand and you're going to press it forward, right? So we're going to work in the opposite direction, right? Because typing is like this. So we're going to work in the opposite direction. You're pressing your arm forward. You're going to press your shoulder down and away. You're going to take your free hand and you're going to grab a hold of those fingertips that are pressing up to the lights. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your fingers backwards. But what you're really doing is you're pushing through the palm of your hand. So you're pushing it forward. Now what I want you to do is take your shoulder blade. It's going to go up and then it's going to go back and it's going to press down. And then you're going to release it forward. So that palm is staying pressed forward and you're going to pull the shoulder up. You're going to pull it back and then you're going to press it back down. So we're undoing the hunch. Nice and slow. You can add the breath here like what we were talking about before, but you really want to focus on getting the shoulder down and away. And so you press the palm forward, you bring the shoulder up, you press it back, and then you relax it down. Now you have to do the other side because you have to make sure that you're even. So just up and back and down. People forget that. You actually have to tell them these things too, which is, it's a scary thing to think about. But then once you do that roll where you go up and back and down again, you can reverse it so that you press the fingers down, you have the back of your hand pushing forward. And then when you push your shoulder forward, when you do that rounding up and back, it has a very different sensation. So you're really going to stretch through the top of the muscles in the top of your forearm. So it's going to give some relief from typing away. Now, are you okay if I share one more thing? Is that okay?
We have 4 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
quick. So when you're, people love this where you swing one arm in front of your chest, you take the free arm and you hook it in front of your elbow and then you press down, right? Everybody loves this stretch, right? So we're going to take it to the next level, okay? So you're going to take where your hands are, your palms are facing you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to press the palms away from us. So you're rotating the palms away. And now I want you to look away from your hands. And then you're going to take a deep breath in and you're going to exhale and press the air out of your mouth and press the shoulders down away from your ears. And then just hold it here and breathe. I like to do about 3 or 4 breaths there. And again, make sure you do it to the other side. It just takes that stretch to another level and it really kind of relaxes in through those shoulders because we're hunched forward. We're in, in that kind of tech-necky kind of position. And that's where we hold our stress. So yes, that's kind of an upper body little tutorial. And I have a bunch of those kinds of stretches on my website, on my social media. My book is on Amazon. You can, just all the places.
Okay. And what is your last message to my listener?
You can have healthy work days. You need to give yourself a little bit of grace. Take the time to allow yourself to really establish, having a healthy day. Align your body, and we all have the same 24 hours. If you can't make it every hour during your workday, that's fine. Just make sure that you're starting with proper posture, because posture is your first line of defense against stress. And if that's all you can get to, you're winning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.
You were inspiring, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I hope your listeners were able to use something, or, they found something valuable from it.
I'm sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stella.
Bye.
Bye.